Welcome to this screencast, which is about how do you make an R package as quickly as possible. So firstly, what's the goal of this screencast? This screencast is merely to show you one way. It might not be the best way, it might not even be the most correct way, but it's just one way of how you can create an R package. So the purpose of making an R package is really for code reuse. It's a better way than writing long scripts. Rather, you just create a package and send it over to your colleague or your friend in order to use your R code. So what's the method for creating an R package that I use? So I've used a library called DevTools. So in order to use this library, you install the package in the normal way, and then you can load your package also in the normal way. The beauty of this package is that it allows you to use a very simple function to create your package, your new package. So in this example, I want to create a package called add, and all this package does is it has one function called add, and it adds up all the elements inside a numeric list. So as an example, if I have a list called A, and I want to add up all the elements in A, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, which should be 10. One way of doing that is writing it this way, and it will add up to 10. So to create our package, let's call the package add list. We create with our argument add list, and it will create add list. And inside this folder, you will notice that we have a bunch of files, so a description file, a man folder, and an R folder. So inside the R folder, this is where you can put all your R scripts in. It can be called anything you want. So just to show you, I want to rename the default name to just add the R. So how do you create a script? How do you create a package using your R scripting knowledge? So it's actually not that difficult. You just put in your normal R code. So here I want a function called add function, and I've already showed you how this function is created. So we use reduce x, and guess what? That's it. Before I continue, I actually forgot. I had forgotten to create an R project, because using an R project within RStudio allows you to very easily build and check functionalities within your package. So let's do that now. So create project, .save, and it is the current working directory is, well, it's just that one right there. So hopefully let me copy and paste. No, it won't. Beautiful. So now we have an additional tab which is called build and reload. So I can actually press this now, one way of doing it, and it will have an error, which leads me to the next thing that we have to do. So now that we have our R script in here, it has our function that we want. Now we need to update our metadata, our documentation for the function. So hopefully in the future we can just type in $add, and it will pop up with the help file. Obviously right now it doesn't exist. And also we would want to add testing into the package so that when we expand the package we can keep up with the bugs that we may have missed in future versions of our new R package. So firstly, the description metadata. The description metadata, the few things we have to do is we have to add authors. In this case I'll add myself. And what else does it say? It says we can see maintainer is missing as well, so we'll add maintainer. License, we'll just make MIT license, generic open source license. Title, we'll call it add list again. And now we'll just build and reload it and see what happens. So namespace file is required. We'll just forget about that for now. But instead, since our description file is now complete, let's now move over to how do we actually document our code and create our help file. To do that, it's actually quite simple. So let's just change to document this function. The function is called add. The name of the function is add. So maybe let's just type in some text here. So what does add do? Add takes in a numeric list and adds up all the values in the list. What other things are in this function list? We also have parameters. We have a parameter x, which what is it? It's a numeric list. And here's the other thing. What do we actually want this function? We want this function when we call library add list. So we want to export it. Why? In this example, it is quite trivial because we only have one function inside the whole package. But if we had helper functions, we may not want to export it, which is why we have to be explicit and specify that we want to export this function. And that's more or less it. If you want more details on how these doc strings work, just Google it up and read it on the internet. It is very similar to Java doc, and it uses elements of Markdown for formatting. So for example, I can use italics by doing this. So it takes in a numeric list and adds up all the values in the list. So now that that's done, what do we do now? Well, I suppose what we do is we can now run a function that is part of DevTools called document, and hopefully it will document our function. Once that is done, you can see that it's updated our documentation. Maybe we can build and reload and see what happens. And it looks like it's done. So when we build and reload, we will notice that now we have a namespace file that is created and also description. Namespace file is also some more metadata which contains the functions that we want to export. So in this case, we can see that we want to export the function add, which it gathered from the doc string when I said export, and the name of the function is add. The cool thing about this is that now we have our documentation done. So if I use $add, I should also be able to see the arguments and the documentation that I've put in here, which you can see here. And we're almost done. In fact, we can consider it to be done. We can just now build and reload, and now we will have a tar file available inside the R package folder, I believe, and we can send it to our friends. But for the purposes of maintaining our package, an important thing to do is to create tests. So to create a test, we would need to create two new folders. So the first folder is called inst, and inside this folder we would want to create a folder that is tests, tests, and inside this folder we can create our R scripts for testing. So to create our R scripts for testing, it is quite simple. We can use It's quite simple. To write our R tests, it is quite simple. DevTools actually uses a library called testthat, and inside that library we can write expects equals, I believe it is. So expect add C123, and we would expect that to be equal to 6. And that's it. So we can save it, we will put it inside tests, and the important thing is it needs to have a prefix of tests, and we can call it whatever we want. So test add. Once that is done, we can now run our tests. Test function, and it could not find a function, which means that I probably misspelt it. We may need to Google, but I believe it's because it's written like that. And we can see that it did not fail. So this is a sanity check. If I change that to 7, we would expect the test to fail, and which would probably tell us that it failed. So we can see that it failed once we put in the incorrect equivalence in that function. And finally, to conclude creating R packages, what you would do is you would run the build command, and hopefully it will now create your new .tar file, which you can send to your colleagues and your friends, as you can see here. And that's it. You're done. And that's it. You're done.